Welcome to Core Cultivation. Here we explore different physical, lifestyle, and mindset moves to support your mental well-being. I'm Marcia, wellness coach and fitness instructor, here to offer practical info to support your wellness journey. Please note, the information and opinion shared here is not to be used as therapy or replacement for the professional guidance given by your physician or mental health care providers. You acknowledge you are responsible for your own physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and hereby release PsyCore Fitness from any and all liability. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please dial 988 or visit the nearest emergency room. Alrighty, y'all, let's talk. Hey y'all, welcome to the podcast. I'm Marcia, wellness coach and fitness instructor. And today on this episode, I want to give some information on managing political anxiety. After seeing, observing, experiencing with friends, family, myself, just everybody, we know that there is a lot of stress and anxiety associated with the presidential campaign. And so I thought it would be good to just go on and bring a little bit of information and some tips that might be helpful for you in trying to manage that. Because it's real. let's just be honest. This is real. And there's a lot going on. But aside from that, it would be good if you could kind of maintain in the midst of all that's going on. And so hopefully these tips will be helpful in you trying to accomplish that. So first and foremost, I want to suggest that you try to stay in the present. So at the time of this recording, we're a few weeks away from the actual election date. And so one of the things that tends to create anxiety is when we get ahead of ourselves. When we start looking into the future, this is when you start acting like whatever your favorite superhero is, and you start trying to conjure up and visualize what's happening days, weeks, and months down the line. Now, okay, it's time for waiver, disclosure, disclaimer, whatever it is. I know this is easier said than done. I know it. But our goal is to always be working towards striving to improve upon these skills for our well-being and for our sanity. And so if we can try to stay in the present moment, try to avoid getting too far ahead of yourself, because when we go down the line into the days, weeks, and months, we can really conjure up some really not so great scenarios, scenes, all of that stuff. And while I'm talking about political anxiety right now, we could plug and play whatever stressor it is that you're dealing with. When you start getting too far ahead of yourself and your mind starts conjuring up all of these worst case scenarios, it can really create a lot of stress in your mind, your body, and your spirit that is kind of unnecessary and undue because it has not happened yet. Now, I know you feel like, again, you're a superhero. You know what's going to happen. You can see it. You can anticipate it. And part of our need to kind of prepare is to anticipate, to plan and kind of brace ourselves for XYZ. However, when doing so, we need to be aware that by staying too far ahead and constantly getting too far ahead of ourselves, we're not experiencing the present moment. And so coming back to the present moment, okay, what am I actually experiencing right now? I can think about what could happen and how horrible it could be or whatever, but what's actually going on right now? What can I focus on? Where can I shift my attention and my energy? So trying to stay in the present moment, trying to put your superhero seeing into the future skills in your back pocket. I don't know when you need to use them, but try to avoid using them right now. That's your first tip. Number two, and this really goes right from the first, is trying to start practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is just another way of saying paying attention to. So trying to pay attention to where your mind wants to take you. I've said before that everybody's mind wants to take them somewhere. It's not a right or wrong thing. It just happens. Your mind works. Your mind conjures up. It's evaluating. It's trying to categorize. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But you want to try and be aware of, where does my mind want to take me? And so in this particular topic, it wants to take you down that path of how everything is going to be horrible, worst case scenario, or whatever. When we get ahead of ourselves, that's when we start becoming fearful. That's when anxiety peaks because, again, we're anticipating all these things in the future that have not happened. Mindfulness is simply being aware of, oh, wait, my mind is going to the future. Let me try and bring it gently back to the present moment. Oh, wait, there I go again, thinking about what could happen. Let me come back to this conversation that I'm having with my friend, my colleague, or whatever. Oh, wait, there it is. I'm not able to sleep because I'm anticipating what could happen at the polls if blah, 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 blah. Let me come back to my breath, taking a deep breath in and out. That's mindfulness. It's the skill of being able to recognize when your mind is going in one direction and trying to gently bring it back. And doing so with little judgment about where your mind went. This isn't about I shouldn't be thinking about these things. I ought not to be worried about XYZ. This is about, oh, there my mind went. Oh, there my mind goes. Okay, let me come back to the present. That's the skill. And just like any other skill, I encourage you to think about it that way, that the more that you do it, the more that you practice it, the easier it will become, the easier it will come to you. This is kind of weird, awkward. It might feel difficult as you begin trying to practice it, but the more that you do it, the easier you'll be able to recognize, oh, there I go again. Okay, let me get back to reading this book or writing this email or doing whatever it is that you need to do. So, number one, trying to stay in the present moment. Number two, practicing mindfulness. And that moves into number three, which is trying to limit your exposure. This is like whether it's social media, whether it's television, radio, wherever it is that you're getting your information from. And this is not about who you should or shouldn't be getting. This is about what are you getting exposed to and how is it triggering your mind to do everything that we just said we don't want it to do. So if you know that if I get on my phone and start scrolling through social media, that I'm likely to get some type of video ad or prompt or news link or article about the election this or this poll that or this pundit said that. Like, if you know that those things are likely to be there, then maybe you need to limit your exposure on your phone, on your news feed, on your social media, on the television stations that you watch or stream or whatever it is. This is about personal boundaries. You got to think about what can you afford to expose yourself to and what things can possibly trigger you and put you in a literally a bad headspace, so that we're right back to what we were talking about. I'm thinking about the worst case scenario. I'm visualizing what's going to happen. And so now I can't sleep. Now I've got this pain in my neck. Now I'm itchy, jittery. Like, all of these things are going on and you're having a hard time calming yourself down. So really trying to be mindful of where you are kind of drawing the lines. How are you protecting your atmosphere, your eyes, your ears? Because it's not just a watch it and you're done. How is it impacting your thoughts, your feelings, all of that? So thinking about and being intentional about drawing some lines and limiting your exposure. And I'm not saying don't be informed, like get your headlines, get the updates, keep it moving. You can be informed and not be overwhelmed and super absorbed. I'm also not suggesting that you like stick your head in the sand and just ignore everything that's going on because you can't take it. Be informed, be aware, definitely, but that doesn't mean that you kind of get on the phone and then the next thing you know, it's gone from one article, one click to another click. You're doom scroll, or the same with the news that maybe you're streaming or watching live, that you watch this and it rolls into another program, and it's all the same stuff. So trying to limit your exposure so you can reduce your anxiety there. So let's say that You tried to do these first few things that we talked about. You tried to stay in the present moment. You have been practicing mindfulness, trying to shift your thinking from the future to the present without judgment, trying to be mindful of your triggers and exercise boundaries and limit your exposure to things that you know are going to put you in a bad space. But maybe you couldn't help it. Something happened. You were doing good. You were listening to your Wusa meditation music or whatever. You were in a good space, but then you happened to walk into maybe a lunchroom and everybody's around talking about it, or there's something on the news, and boom, it's in your space and you're triggered. And the next thing you know, your anxiety is up again and you're worried about all these things. Okay, it happens. So when your anxiety does spike and when you are aware of your anxiety going up and you're feeling kind of jittery, you're having a hard time maybe calming down or whatever, then that might be an opportunity to maybe let some of that energy goad you into action. Maybe this is your opportunity to get engaged in some of the campaigns or some of the different efforts to get out the vote or whatever. Think about if there is something that you can do to positively impact your sphere, your small world. So one of the reasons why there's so much anxiety around really any situation, you can plug and play. We're talking about the presidential election, but plug and play any other stressor that you're dealing with. And much of the stress that you're experiencing is because you feel like you don't have any control over it, that there's certain aspects of it that you just don't know. You don't have any control over it. So this gets into kind of locus of control. There are things that you might have control over. There are things you might have some influence over. And then there's certain things that you just don't have any control over. So thinking about the things that you do have control over, political, presidential election, whatever other stressor or challenging situation that you're dealing with, what do you have control over? Can you engage and get active on those fronts, doing something to allow you to feel like you have some control? When we get involved in things and try to have some influence or control over the things that we do have, it allows us to feel a little bit better and it reduces our anxiety to an extent because we know we're doing what we can as opposed to just feeling helpless, just kind of having to ignore and I just wait to see. I can't. You have some control and you're exercising some control over the aspects that you do have. So that's your opportunity if the anxiety has spiked to maybe just go on and get engaged at some level. And I'm just going to go on and say, if you don't know how to get engaged or you need some information on how to get engaged, I think I may have gotten about 5,000 texts yesterday. So I will be glad. Just message me. I'll get you the information because if I get one more text, be engaged. Do what you can. Have influence and impact where you can have influence and impact. Another thing that you can do if the anxiety has spiked, you're anxious, you're stressed, you're worried, move. I'm repetitious. That's okay. That's what I'm here for. I've said it before. I will say it again. Movement is great for anxiety and stress reduction. If you think about it, when you're anxious, when you're worried, you just got all this pent up energy, fidgety, so I can't sit still. Get moving. That's a great way to let that energy kind of process through the body. How you move is up to you. Maybe you want to take a walk. Maybe you want to go for a run. Maybe you want to dance to your favorite song. Maybe you want to do a full workout. Maybe you want to jump rope for 5 minutes. I don't know what is going to work for you in your body and what works for you in your body. But think about, try to brainstorm, have some options that are available to you to allow you to move and get some of that tension and pent up energy out of your body. All right. It's pretty simple, straightforward. I don't know if I have any other extra information other than do what your body says is okay to do. Moving allows that energy to kind of move through the body. Okay, so we have tried to stay in the present moment. We have tried to practice mindfulness and learning how to shift our minds back to the present moment when we learn and observe that our mind is taking us to different places. We're trying to practice personal boundaries by limiting our exposure to things that are going to trigger our minds to go to all of these places of increased anxiety, fear, worry. And then if we do experience the anxiety, we're going to let that goad us into action, into maybe getting involved in some of the campaigns, helping to mobilize or whatever, get out the vote. You find what works for you. Then also, I'm going to get moving. Like something has got my energy, my anxiety up, and I need to sort through that. Maybe I need to do some stretches to kind of release some of that tension to help decrease that pain or tightness in my neck, make it a little bit easier for me to fall asleep because I'm so worried about the campaign. Try to get moving to help move through or let that energy move through the body. Lastly, and most certainly not least, do not forget your faith. I come from a Christian background. There's certain universal tenets across all the faiths. But my Bible tells me that there's nothing happening now that has not already happened. And so I can go to my Bible and use that maybe as my blueprint to figure out, okay, how did they do it then? How did they or get through it then? How did they navigate the stress, the worry, all of that? And how can I take some of those principles and practices and apply it to my present situation and my present moment? This is where faith comes in because it's all about taking care of the things that you cannot control. And let's be real, there are things happening to us all day, every day that we can't control, that are beyond our control, despite what we might tell ourselves. But we exercise our faith that our God or our Lord is going to work it out. Are you putting your faith and your spiritual practices and your spiritual resources into managing your political anxiety and stress around this presidential campaign? Remember that this is a tool in your toolbox and maybe the most vital tool to move up to number one of your list of things to do. Don't forget your prayer, your fasting, all of these different things that have soothed you, that have worked for you, that help keep you grounded, that allow you to have peace in the midst of things that are beyond your control. Exercise your faith. And I'll go on and add a little something extra here that kind of goes back to mindfulness, to integrate your faith with your mindfulness practices. When you catch your mind going to the future and conjuring up and playing up this awful scenario and scene of what could be, to pick a scripture, to identify a passage that is going to be comforting, soothing, and encouraging for you. And so one of my favorite scriptures is that God can do exceedingly and abundantly above anything I could ever ask, think, or imagine. And so maybe when my mind wants to take me and think about all these things that could go wrong, I know that my God can do exceedingly and abundantly above anything. I can say that over and over to myself, not only to help shift my mind from the worst case scenario that I'm drawing up and conjuring visually in my mind and coming back to the present, but I'm also building my faith and encouraging my faith and exercising my faith in that moment. So we're kind of doing really like two or three things that we've talked about at once. I know all of this is easier said than done. But the goal is to always be trying to improve and work towards trying to take better care of ourselves and be intentional about doing so. Which brings us to core work. If you happen to have been with me, I popped up a couple of weeks ago when I was scheduled to do my Friday flow. And I did not do that. I came on trying to not cough up a lung in the process of talking, but I had gotten sick that week, and I'm really just now kind of getting to a point where I'm feeling like I'm kind of back to myself. But my getting sick was an indicator for me that I needed to sit down. Essentially, like my body's like, if you don't sit your behind down and take a second to think. So with core work, again, commit to your well-being, to be intentional about taking care of your well-being. Take ownership. It's your job. It's your job to take care of yourself. Rest and reflect. Take time to reset, think, separate from the chaos, see what it is that you need, get in touch with your gut and your God as far as what you need to do. And then engage all the resources internally and externally to help you reach those particular goals. I am doing rest and reflect. After getting sick this most recent time, I didn't have COVID, but this thing was different. Well, I heard some people last year talking about flu-vid, like how the flu and COVID came together and it was horrible. Maybe that's what I had. I don't know. But it was something that slowed me down enough to say, okay, I need to take a second to rest and reflect, rest my body, rest my mind, and reflect on what is it that I am trying to accomplish, what are the things that I need, where are my wellness priorities, and how do I want to move forward. And so I'm still sorting through all that because it is a process. But I'm just wanting to be transparent and saying that the things that I'm sharing with you all, the things that I'm hoping to give you all, the information, the techniques, the tools, it's not just some stuff out there. I'm practicing these things too and needing to practice these things too. So this goes back to episode 1 when I talked about wellness is work. Wellness is work. So I've recently made some decisions regarding my career and my job, which are good. However, I'm in a space of transition and it's another space of, okay, what are we doing and how are we going to manage in this particular space? Meaning I'm trying to get my sea legs up under it. Like I'm trying to get my bearings. And again, just in a place of transition. I do not doubt the path that I'm on. However, we're trying to figure out how we navigate in this particular space. And so this is what wellness is. So I could have had a great rhythm 3 weeks ago, but life happened. And so what are we doing now? This is why I'm constantly saying wellness is not something that you get or achieve, check a box to say I got it. Oh, I'm good. I'm well. I got well-being and stuff. Like that's not how it happens. You got to keep working for it because life keeps on happening. And so I'm just wanting to be transparent and let you know that hey, I'm working on this thing too, but sometimes you do need to take some time to rest and reflect and get centered, get grounded so that you can move forward with more purpose and a clear intention. And so I encourage you, as always, to do your core work, do what you need to do to make sure that you're on the path that you need to be on and that you are taking care of yourself mentally as well as physically. So that's all I have for you. I will say that if you find that you are in a space where you're needing to do a little bit of resting and reflecting, I encourage you to check out my 5-day wellness tune-up. It's free. You can find it at PsyCoreFit.com. Hey, again, it's free. It gives you an opportunity to just kind of do a little bit of self-reflection and focus on particular aspects of your well-being over the course of 5 days. And again, the way this world is, stress is always coming. So having an opportunity to get centered and get grounded is always going to be in good service to your overall well-being. So I thank you for hanging out. I hope the information was helpful. As always, please do take care of yourselves. I look forward to talking with you next time. Take care.